So when it comes to the Tesla company, there's everything else, and then there's Optimus, which is 10 times everything else. And Brian Wang has been thinking about that for the last couple of days and has put together a few of his thoughts in terms of how we might get from where we are now to where we want to go. So, Brian, I'm going to let you kind of take the lead and give us some idea of what you have in mind here.
Yeah. So the main thing is that at the last earnings call just a couple of days ago, Elon has said that they could make 10,000 Tesla bots this year. So the future of Tesla bots being the thing for the company could happen far sooner than any of us had thought before. So there was what we've seen like a few months ago was a new hand catching a tennis ball. It was remote operated, but basically the system is agile and you just need the software to do that. And also they had dancing bots at the Cyber Day. Some people are saying, okay, well, we want to discount that 10,000. One, Elon himself said maybe they don't get to 10,000, that maybe they only get to a few thousand. So
Right.
what's a few thousand? So then, they really want to discount that to 2,000. But then they also want to keep discounting when he says, okay, next um, year we'll get to 10,000 per month with a factory line. And then they want to cut that by five or something like that. So I don't agree with that. I think, at a certain point, you're going to start way underestimating how many you can build because they're not that difficult to make once you have the hand, the actuators sorted out. There's not many pieces, you be able to put them together quickly, right? So technically, once you've solved it, then you will be able to ramp to far, far higher numbers.
Yeah, I
Um,
think I think people get a little confused on the difficulty of this, like compared to what they've seen is, you know, the Model 3 hell that the company went through.
mhm,
They've seen the battery taking a long time to get up to the full ramp. But with you're talking about with the batteries, you're talking about chemicals being mixed at extremely high speeds with different metal, layers. All of that having to come together and be just absolutely perfect every time. You can't have flaws or small mistakes. I mean, it's just really, really precision and
mhm,
very high speed.
right.
Automobiles, you have what, 20,000 minimum, at least 20,000 parts. They
Right.
have to all fit together exactly, you know, and yeah, there's an awful lot of room for problems as these come into place. With the bot, you're talking about injection molded plastic and titanium, which those parts should be pretty much easy to easy to make pretty precise, and they're
Right.
smaller pieces. I've done this. This is what I've done. And so this is not going to be that hard to get the precision that you need and to have them always fit together. From what I can see, looking at it, the hardest part is going to be the tendons and stuff in the hands. But I
Mhm.
think once you figure it out, and I think maybe even Optimi might be the ones that are actually building the hands.
Right. Right. So, and the other thing was that Elon talked to the head of TSMC, Taiwan Semiconductor,
Right,
and was saying, can you make me enough AI5 chips,
right,
which are the brains of the Tesla bot? And the AI5 chip is also the one that's going to be going into Tesla cars.
right,
So 4 million Tesla cars, they're not concerned about it. They're concerned about Tesla bot. So at some point, you're saying, okay, well, we're concerned about the volume produced. What is that number? 40 million, 100 million per year? It's going to go to something well beyond 10 million. Otherwise, you're saying, well, I'm making more the same number for cars, so I'm in the same range.
right.
So, that other projection from our, good friends, Farzad and Stern Basher, we're saying, okay, well, we don't get to 10 million to 2031. Well, then
Right.
why are you talking to TSMC saying, do you have enough? Right? Can you make enough chips? Right? So at some point, the hockey stick happens and we go from pilot production to the real deal,
Right.
right? And that should be production version 3, you would think. So production version 1 is what they started this year, and they were talking about 1,000 a month. Oh, there was some rumor from China about suppliers saying we need to get to 600 per week,
Right.
rumor, right?
By the end of the
By the end of this year, and then 10,000 per month, which would be 2,500 or so per week, early 2026, and that's production version 2.
Mhm.
So the production ramp is only gated by the fact that you want to take whatever learnings you have and then apply that to a redesign and then proceed. But Tesla can do redesigns all the time. They can make changes along the line. So you have a version 0.1, 0.2, where each of them is different along the line until you make the real step change to go to the higher volume.
And
And
I'm assuming I think Brian, you probably are too, that this is going to be, I mean, this is such an obvious example of something that would be unboxed. So you're going to have a right
right,
leg, you're going to have a right leg being made over here, a left leg made over here. You're going to have a right hand being made over here, a left hand being made over here, a right shoulder, left shoulder. I mean, you're going to have like maybe, I don't know, 10 different major parts.
right,
And then your assembly line is just going to be popping those 10 parts together.
right. That's right.
Yeah. So I think that this is going to be easy to iterate,
Right,
because, okay, you got something you're going to change on the hands.
right,
Well, you're changing that in the hand production department. You're not changing it on the line.
right,
And so change to the hand production department, and maybe you've got two stations going. Maybe you've got, a station that's continuing to make the old hand, and you got a station over here that's just implementing it on the side. I think it's not going to be as hard as people think.
and also it's 30 times less mass.
Right.
So
Right.
you should go towards that number. And people say, well, it's more complicated. There's a lot of complicated things in the car too,
Oh, yeah.
octavalves and all that kind of stuff. But they're working to simplify,
Right.
right? So as you make, and then production version 3, a gigafactory. So Cybercab, they're talking about making 2 million per year,
Right.
which is one line, which is supposedly like 4 times better than the 500,000 roughly they can make for a car line, a regular car line. And they're
Right.
going to car line version 2, that's going to 4 million. And I'm pretty 2 million. So that I'm pretty sure that's not the end, that they have another step up where the line would get to, 4 million or something like that. Anyway, so 2 million, that's about 200,000, roughly, 180,000 per month.
Mhm.
And then if these things are half the cost, twice as easy, then, getting to 100,000 per month, a little over a million, production version 3, you're not at real full production. You're kind of like at 200,000 cars, something like that. But then I think the super factory, when we've gone to unboxed for this using robots, you should be in the 400,000 to 4 million per month for a superbot factory is my thing. When that happens,
Uh-huh.
I think it happens before 2030. I think it, like P2 is the next year, P3 could be the year after,
Right.
right?
Right.
And then P4 with super factory could be the year after that, could be 2028. In which case, we could rapidly shoot up to, get to like 10 million per factory, 20 million per factory. Then you have like several factories
Hmm.
or many lines, and the lines would be smaller because again, each one, not many parts, the footprint would be smaller.
Right.
So then you can start getting to those 100 million things. So it's a scale of a supply chain. There's other issues, right? But getting to end state should be that. And then the value per bot initially will be higher,
Hmm.
right? Because people will pay more for them. Tesla themselves will get about, I think Sternbasher estimated 300,000 to 400,000 per bot by increasing factory efficiency, and then selling them for 200,000 to 400,000 or something like that for the first 10 million or so, before dropping to 100,000 per bot, maybe for 50 million, and
Yeah.
then going to some steady state. Yeah, go
Yeah.
ahead.
Let's go over that again. So a single employee at a very minimum for Tesla would be $80,000 per shift. So if you have three shift, you're talking 240,000 in savings at a minimum. That doesn't count all of the ancillary costs like hiring, firing, promoting, figuring out how to having some employees that do more higher capability than other employees, putting in incentives to get the lesser employees to come up to the better employees. I mean, all of that stuff goes out the window, and that's not counted in the 80,000. So you
Mhm.
got $80,000 per employee that Tesla will be saving. So if they get, let's say next year they do build 5,000, but let's say it takes them all year to do that, so that the average is they have
We're talking
25
about this year. This
this
year.
year. I'm sorry,
This
this year. The
yeah.
average they have is, let's say, 2,500, and let's say it takes them a while to get those guys up to speed. So let's cut it down to 2,000. So we'll say that they get 2,000 Optimi worth of value this next year times 80,000
Yeah.
times 4 shifts. It turns into
Mhm.
real money, turns into over $1 billion in
Right.
savings. And nobody's counting that in Tesla's bottom line next year.
This year is this year.
I'm
It
sorry, I
was
keep doing that.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's almost February. I should have
Right.
gotten over it by now.
So again, you're backing into what Stern Basher's saying that they
Right,
want to be conservative. And you say,
right,
okay, 2,000. Although I'm willing to go over under, at 5,000.
right,
Right.
right.
I think that toward the end of the year they'll pick up the pace a lot, and they have to shift another line. But like Q4, I mean, it can be a good quarter where you're making your 1,000 per
Per week,
per per month or something like that.
per,
Yeah.
per month, yes.
1,000, 2,000 per month. Yeah, they can get to that number. And then shifting over to the 10,000, you know, next year. Let's say, Elon wasn't super confident of beginning of that, so maybe April, and then that should get up to, you know, that 100,000. I think also another step change or another factory line could occur, um, in the second half, or beginning Q4, that
Right.
things could start squeezing together faster on that.
Yeah, and there's always, when the question always becomes, when do they start building a line in Shanghai? When do they
Mhm.
start building a line in Berlin? Because the amount of square footage this can be required for the Optima is so much smaller than it is for the cars or for energy.
Mhm.
I did an analysis. I want to say that I think my number was that to build 1 million a year, you only need 300,000 square feet.
Yeah,
So when I say it's a small building, it's not a small building, but it's not that big.
right, right. So because they're so small that when they crank it up, they'll, like, if they go, okay, 10 times, 10 times, at a certain point, they say, let's really start making as many as we can.
Right,
You could step up to, in a year, increasing by 100 times and go
right.
from, like, okay, what we get to 1 million in 2028, right? Or was it, 5,000, 50,000, a million. So 25, 26, 27 get to a million, right? And then 28 can go to like 100 million. We're basically like, okay, now we just pop up more factories. We have everything sorted out. We're on version 4,
Right.
right? Kind of like personal computers, right? Where, you had the Commodore PET, you had smaller numbers, and then they
Boom.
figured out, the IBM PC, and then the one after that, and then suddenly you went to 100 million, right?
Well,
They,
in fact, I think it would be easy to say this about any product. I don't care what product you're talking about. Once
Mhm.
you've ramped it to mass production, ramping a second line
Yeah,
is like, you know, a tenth of the work.
right.
You just duplicate your line, duplicate your find. I think the hardest part is the suppliers.
Mhm.
The hardest part might be finding the guys who can make the motors, the uh, actuators, somebody who
Right.
can make the actuators as well as the company that they've identified in the United States
Right.
that they're going to use for making the actuators. So maybe there's a great actuator maker in China, maybe there isn't. Maybe there's a great one in Europe, maybe there isn't. So that is going to be, I think, harder than assembling them, in the factory.
Right. So I think that, you know, takeoff I wouldn't say 50 million. Like they say Elon wants 50 million in 2029. I think the hockey stick happens in 2027 or 2028.
Got it.
Right. That basically you're sorting things out, stumbling around 2025, 2026, but
Hmm.
2027, 2028 is when it shoots up to
Hmm.
50 or 100 million. That you go to, you get out of your, you know, Apple One phase to IBM PC or, PS2 or whatever. You step up to 100 million unit volumes
Or
because
the other way it could go. I mean, there's a bunch of trees you could build, but
Mhm.
another tree you could build is that in 2026 he actually hits his 100,000,
Yeah,
and then 2027 becomes the million,
right.
and 2028 becomes 100 million. I mean 10 million. So that changes everything if you just have a faster ramp earlier in the process.
Right, right. But I think that I don't think anything I don't view that as magical that there's this 10x thing happening. Now we found it's a big thing, but when bots are making bots
Right, right,
and
right.
they really sorted it out, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Then and the demand is off the charts,
right,
then what are you holding back for?
right.
Like, why do I cautiously want to do this thing, right? So I think that takeoff point, like I said, 2027, 2028, when things
Right.
go crazy. And then the value, certain bachelor's numbers, then if you go to that, let's call it 100 million per year level,
Mhm.
right? That'd be 100 million times what would be the profit revenue number from a high volume thing, where,
Yeah, so
50,000.
well, manufacturing, you tend, at my level, you wanted to double your money to your first level buyer.
Yeah.
Okay. That's not true when you get to something that costs you $10,000 to build. You don't
Mhm.
need to make another 10, but if you
Mhm.
can, you would.
Yeah.
Okay. So I would say that probably the minimum, at least in the early first years of doing 100 million, they'll probably make $10,000 a unit, but I also think they'll have some ongoing charge
Mhm. Right. So what, 10,000, 20,000 per
per
thing per
unit.
year,
Mhm.
per unit per year?
Yep.
So let's say 10,000, then that would be um at 100 million, that would be the $1 trillion, right? Did I get that right? 100 million. So
100
a
million.
thousand, that's 100 billion.
Yeah.
10,000 would be $1 trillion,
Trillion,
right?
trillion dollars in profit.
In
Right.
profit, right?
Right.
And it could be more. The other thing would be that each one of them would be able to do AI inference, just to be AI inference. So
Yeah.
that's another
Right.
revenue stream. So there's the same one that does Optimus is also doing AI inference, right? So that could also be more money from that.
Right.
And the other thing is that even $20,000 cost, okay, that's cost at 1 million unit. So um, doing some kind of Wright's Law thing, it could go down to $10,000 a cost or $5,000 a cost, right?
So I think you've heard me say before that Scott Walter and I worked on this, and so did CERN actually. We all three came up with the same number. We all three thought that in volume it should only be about 7,000.
Mhm. Right, right. So then we would head up to that before 2030, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And then it's yeah, so you're making you still may improve it and replace it,
Right.
but you'll still get your value, your payback within a year or two of owning
Mhm.
it.
Mhm.
And so then you're not sweating the fact that, hey, I may have to recycle this and get a better one, do an upgrade every 4 or 5 years. Um, so then that $1 trillion, that's what CERN has for 2035.
Okay.
So I'm saying that could come into the 2030 timeframe.
Yeah, and the other
Um,
side of it is that maybe they can even make more money because Elon has always talked about it being a $30,000 product for the family for the home.
mhm,
And I've done a bunch of studies in terms of the usage in the home because people were arguing with me.
mhm,
Gary Black, for instance, was
mhm,
saying, how can the average family even consider spending $30,000 for one of these Optimus bots? And right away, I had people coming back to me that either had childcare, adult senior living with them that needed help and needed some
Mm.
supervision from time to time when they'd like to
Yeah.
go out,
Yeah.
or people that had special needs children. Um,
Mm.
all of them said, "Are you kidding? I spent way more than $30,000 for that bot." And that's just one use case.
Right. And so it's also, like I said, AI inference. The chip can
Right,
actually do that. So if you're, paying, like the OpenAI O3 model, paying $2,000 a month for that,
right.
and I have a better chip that can help me, be part of the network that can do that kind of service,
Yep.
then, you know, that could be, a new service that just using that capability. And the other thing would be that if we do gardening
Yeah.
and run my greenhouse, then $5,000 per year to give me all my vegetable and
Right.
fruit food,
Yes.
um, then I don't have to go shopping. I can just make myself self-sufficient on
Yes.
that.
Yes.
And so that's just doing that. And then, fixing plumbing, you know, remodeling,
Yeah.
improving my home
Oh,
so that
yeah.
I can
Yes.
increase the value of my house, by doing that. So, in terms of, like, once you replace labor and do all tasks, it's like if you think of the Matrix movies, Neo uploading whatever you want instead of uploading kung fu, it's like
Yes. Yes. Yes.
uploading, landscaping, hardscaping, remodeling. Those are the major value tasks for you, along with the one you talked about, like
Right. And
um,
in all of those things, it's not just the fact they can do the task, but if you want to learn the task, if you want to participate in the task, and right now that would mean, you do the task for a while, you look up a YouTube video on it, you go to Home Depot, you make the wrong purchase, you come back home, and
right,
you come back home with the wrong purchase, you go back to Home Depot the second time to get the right thing. I mean, but with the bot working with you, you would make way fewer of those kinds of mistakes. You would get the enjoyment of being part of the process. I mean, and
mm,
and it goes along with everything. Coaching you in your golf swing,
yeah,
helping your kids with their baseball swing or with their ability to learn how to sew a perfect blouse. I mean, it just
yeah.
whatever it is. Yeah,
And it's owning one to do work for other people.
yeah,
Like I bought the capital asset, like a vending machine, and then other people are using it,
yeah.
then I get, return because it's doing value. It's just
And
like,
oh,
yeah.
go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
So if it's $7,000 or
Yes,
like even a margin up like $20,000 after the $7,000 cost, then um it can do 8,000 hours of work a year,
right.
right? Not 2,000 normal people do, but 8,600 something like that, 8,000 hours of work, and then $2.50. What is the value of having something that can do $2.50 worth of work?
Right.
And that is assuming you want to pay it off all in 1 year versus multiple years of continuing work. So it's
Right.
like a super cheap um, labor pool. It's like in Hong Kong, they would have Filipino maids from
Mhm.
Malaysia, Thailand, stuff like that, and then everyone has a maid, right?
Right.
Because it doesn't make sense not to pay
Exactly.
$500,000 a month for that, right?
Yes, even
So similar,
even drivers, like middle
right,
class people have drivers.
right. But here we would have we'll have self-driving cars, so that's
Right.
not needed. But the bot would be able to do all these other tasks for
Yes.
you
Yes.
and basically work for you, right?
And I
So
just thought I just thought of the most important thing of all, though, Brian.
right,
If you loan your bot out to your neighbor even for free and don't even charge him,
yeah,
you don't have to worry about the neighbor returning it
yeah,
because the bot will just
and
return
come back, right, right. So the world will totally change, and by 2030, there could be, you know, everyone will have one, and then going to everyone have 10 or something like that.
Right.
And the 10-20 scenario is where everyone kind of lives like Downton Abbey or like the show where you have like
Right.
10, 20 servants for you, right? But they're not just working around the mansion, but also, going out to do other tasks for society. And
Yes.
then you are the manager, the financial manager, whatever, because you still own stuff,
Right.
right? So it will be a total transformation of what the world is like over the course of possibly as little as 10 years.
Yeah, and people say, well, what would my purpose be? How I'm because some people are like, okay, money will have no meaning anymore, and there'll be no scarcity, and everything will be so cheap, and so you just need a universal basic wage. No, there will still be lots of scarcity. There will still be only 50,000 tickets for the Taylor Swift conference or the Taylor Swift
Show.
show, and you will still, so therefore she'll be able to charge, you know, whatever she wants, whatever the market will bear. And so if you
Mhm.
don't make the extra money, you
Yeah,
ain't going.
right,
They'll still only allow so many people into Venice every day
yeah,
because they're going to destroy the city if you allow everybody that wants to come in all at
right,
once. So there's going to be all kinds of things that will still have extra value that will be in limited supply. And so, yes, you'll want to earn money. One of the best ways to earn money will be you'll own something that makes you money.
right, right. And people can think of other things over history where things were um, scarce before, like food, up
Right.
until
Right.
you know only a few decades ago. In many cases, they would have self-starvation, and then now, you can go to buffets. Although it's with the inflation, we've gotten
It's
back to a bit of inflation, scarcity again. But I think that it the main thing is that for Tesla, that I think the surge up to 100 million bots per year, I'm thinking happens before 2030.
yeah.
That is the main thing that can happen, and that will then have all these world-changing things
Well,
happen.
and also not everybody is like us and in it for the long term. Although even you and I sometimes buy leaps and stuff, which is short term. So for the short term player, even for the day trader, moving it forward in terms of 5,000 or 10,000 this year compared to what we thought was only 1,000 to 3,000, that was a major step up. Having
Right,
Elon for the first time say, I think we can 10 times it each year after that, if you're talking 50 to 100,000 in 2026 and 100,000 and 50,000, what did I just say? And 500,000 to a million in 2027, that is a massive increase in the value of the company.
right, right. The 500,000 times 100,000, that'd be like $500 billion,
Yeah, right,
right?
right. Yes. Yeah,
Right.
just massive. Yeah.
Right. So and we already had another video where we discussed how the Robotaxi situation could happen far sooner because it's the activation of existing cars,
Exactly.
and they have a leap there. And the Tesla being more valuable than the five next companies, that kind of thing, that could be, that 2027 time frame for that
And
to occur.
I don't think I've had this conversation with you, Brian. I know that one of my guests, one of my regular guests, and you guys can all guess who it was, thought that I was wrong about this, but I think I'm right about this. And now I've seen a couple of other people say it after I did, which is the the Optimus could be taking over a lot of driving jobs. A
Mhm.
lot of driving jobs. There are millions of tractors that are not autonomous. In fact, there's only a teeny tiny bit of tractors in the world that are
Mhm.
autonomous. They've barely been making them for a couple of years.
Mhm.
So there's so many tractors that could be driven by a bot. Then you've
Mhm.
got forklifts. You've got all kinds of heavy equipment that could be driven by a bot. You've got um, equipment goes into dangerous places. I mean, it goes on and on and on the places that you'll
Right.
be to make
So, yeah.
potentially.
So even though you're self-driving, putting the FSD, is not as flexible as having a humanoid bot that can just pop into the driver's seat
Right.
and then do the work.
And it turns out
And
that DARPA is already doing this,
right,
not with humanoid robots, but with just a robotic approach,
right,
trying to get the robot to be able to replace the driver in every single military application.
right. They've done that for F-16s and
Yes.
other
Yes.
planes, and
Yes.
yeah. So it's a really an advanced thing that becomes easier. Though I think actually flying a plane, is because the traffic situation is often less challenging. That once you have have the skills of here I start the flaps and then take off, then it's easy to fly and then you have to land. So you only mainly have two main points to do it. And then the steering is relatively trivial.
Right.
So so certain operations of, like I say, vehicles,
Sure.
tractors, other things, once you have the specialized knowledge, then it's not as tough.
It's not that hard. Yeah, exactly right. So anyway, that was a whole nother category of places where Optimi
Yeah,
might be filling in a very short order.
right. Okay.
Did I cover it all?
So
Did we get it
I think
all?
so. I think
That's
yeah,
it? Okay.
world changing sooner is the main point.
World changing sooner. All right. Well, I want to suggest to people, I'm going to put the card up here. Larry Goldberg and I were on for a while, just a little while ago. And of course, as always with Larry, it was brilliant. The part that was brilliant was Larry. Anyway, and then I also want to encourage people tomorrow that Brian will be back tomorrow with the other video. I don't know which one's going to be which time, but if you're watching this one on Saturday, then the one yesterday was on anyway,
Robotaxi. Yeah.
Robotaxi and vice versa. It
Yeah.
depends on which one I put up first, which one I put up second.
Mhm.
But we also have Robert Scoble coming tomorrow and Phil Basil. So that's, I mean, holy cow, what a deal for tomorrow. And then
Mhm.
Brian, okay, we're going to wait till Monday to decide who won?
No, you won in terms of the share thing. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think the overnight's going to give me
You don't think you're going to get
450.
up? You don't think you can get up to 450? Okay, so
No, it should be like the thing is everything happened the way I said. Okay, in terms
yeah,
of like
yeah,
Elon will be super happy.
yeah,
We get all this great news.
yeah.
Just that the people didn't get it. I
Right.
got it. I want the
And it
shares
was
up, and
trying today. It tried, Brian.
it tried.
It was
It
at
tried.
418.50. I'm going,
420.
come on, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I've taken a couple of victory laps on this because, I predicted the 410 six
Yeah.
months
That's
ago.
right.
And
Right.
so,
Great
so
call.
I thought that was pretty to the day, to the day.
Right.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty good. All right.
Right.
Thank you, Brian. And to
Thank
all
you.
of you out there, it's been great talking to you.